Sean Grimminger. Welcome to the Valder Beebe Show, live out of Dallas, Texas. I'm so excited that you are here today. Thank you.
Great to meet you.
I want my audience to know that Sean Grimminger is president and CEO of the National Alliance of Healthcare Purchasers Coalitions. Sean, I've got a few questions for you because my audience can relate to healthcare because they're baby boomers, but a lot of them are still working. So let's get started. Why should we be concerned about hospital pricing practices?
Sure. So in the United States, more than half of the people get their healthcare through their employer or purchaser, right? So if you're a working person, you're getting healthcare through your employer. Ultimately, you as the employee are kind of paying for that healthcare through your employer. And about half of the money that's spent by employers on all of their healthcare ends up going to hospital systems. Unfortunately, what we've seen over the last 20, 25 years is that hospital prices have been a leading driver of healthcare inflation. And we've been seeing increases in costs by 10, 15, 20% per year, which means that overall hospital prices have grown more than twice the rate of inflation, which ultimately, of course, is eating into everybody's budget.
So the hospital practice, is this driving up the cost for the employer and the employee?
Yeah, that's right. It's both. So really, I'd say that the practices are driven in large part by healthcare consolidation. So I'm sure you've seen this in Dallas. If you probably remember, go back 20 years ago, used to see lots of independent physician practices, right? Doctor so-and-so providing orthopedic
Yes.
surgery, you name it. But nowadays, you drive around town and you see almost every hospital, or excuse me, every physician practice has like a hospital name on the outside, right? That's because the large hospital systems have been not only sort of consolidating themselves, so one hospital buying another to become a sort of a two hospital system and then growing from there, but also hospitals buying physician practices so that all of the care that's being driven is going through that hospital system. By getting bigger, that gives them the ability to sort of leverage higher prices when they actually go and work with insurance companies and employers. The impact is both on the employer and on the employee. So if you're an employer, right, and you're thinking about hiring a person, you're not just looking at what is going to be their cost of their salary. You got to look at their entire benefits package, right? So that's the salary plus health insurance plus life insurance, retirement, you name it. With healthcare inflation going twice as fast as regular inflation, that means there's less money to go around for everything else, which is really kind of sending wages downward, right? So we're seeing people getting smaller salary increases every year, in large part because so much of that money that would otherwise go to wages is now going into hospital systems through higher prices.
So let me ask you this. When an employer, and I don't know if you can answer, but when an employer is looking at hiring someone, you say they got to divvy up this pot. If you're not as healthy as you should be, are employers making that decision like I cost too much and pass on employing me?
That's a really great question. So I would say they shouldn't be, right? So that actually that's illegal. That being said, there's no question that an employer is, they do have to kind of look across their entire costs and make decisions about whether they can hire or not. In the end, I think employers they're not so worried necessarily about single individual. They do tend to look at, the overall health of their population. And it's interesting. Some employers have a healthier population than others. It really depends on the industry they're in, the part of the country they're in, et cetera. And so one of the things that employers actually spend a lot of time doing is trying to find ways to make sure that their employees are getting and staying healthier, because we know, that a person who is in good shape, taking good care of themselves, eating well, all of those things is going to end up having lower healthcare costs, which is going to save that employee money and also the employer money.
I wish we had a lot more time because I was recently talking to a group of millennials. They're even using that choice of if people are healthy about dating and marriage. And I'm sure you're aware of that.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. You have to come back. We'll have a longer conversation as parents. What impact does employer have on working families then if they're making these huge decisions for them?
Can you say that one more time, Valder? I didn't quite understand.
Employers, when they're making these decisions about becoming a bigger hospital or bigger hospital system, That means that are supposed to get a better price. But how is this affecting the families? Is it trickling down to us?
Yeah, we do see evidence where employers are able to drive better prices. They actually are able to offer higher wage increases. So there's an example out of New York City. A large union looked at, and that has 200,000 people that work for it, looked at all the hospitals across New York City, and they recognized that one of them was by far the highest price. And they made the decision to take that hospital system out of their network, right? Which is challenging because people don't want to, they want to have choices. But when they were able to do that, they saved so much money. They were able to give the folks that worked for that union, worked in that union, the largest wage increase that union had ever been able to offer. And that was simply by saying, we're no longer going to pay astronomical prices for this hospital system. We're going to help bring people to other hospitals that are higher value, lower cost. And in doing that, we're going to give you something back, which is higher wages. This is something we're really encouraging employers to do.
Okay, what about when they take those hospital systems out of underserved or rural communities? How does that affect them?
Yeah, it's a big problem that we're seeing. So despite the fact that we're seeing, consolidation, right? Hospitals buying physician practices, that tends to be concentrated in upper income communities, right? So if you're a hospital system in Dallas, you're looking at Plano and McKinney, and you're saying, well, that's where I want to make sure we're trying to have as many people as possible. So you have no problems with access in the upper income communities and, outside of Dallas. But if you're in inner city Dallas or in one of the, thousands of small towns around Texas, there isn't a whole lot of reason for those big nonprofit, but frankly, highly profitable health systems to provide care in that area, right? So what you're seeing is real underservice in those spaces, real barriers to access and problems of people finding healthcare. And so families are seeing, smaller hospitals going out of business in rural areas. They're having to drive dozens or hundreds of miles to the nearest hospital or nearest specialist. And even in Dallas, you look at some of the lower income neighborhoods in Dallas, a lot of places are having a hard time surviving there. So people are now having to travel to the north side of Dallas to get care. It's a real problem. It's something that we've got to fix.
You know your location. Where can my audience get more information? Because this is a very healthy conversation to have.
I appreciate it. So the National Alliance is pleased to be leading a campaign called Employers Against Hospital Pricing Abuse. And you can go to our website, hospitalpricingabuse.org to learn more.
Shawn Grimminger, it's been my pleasure, and I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Val.
Hi, I'm Valder Beebe, host of The Valder Beebe Show. We have over 1,000 videos on ValderBeebeShow.com and YouTube.com/ValderBeebeShow. We upload new videos daily. Our site is a modern baby boomer platform with news and information important to boomers. Subscribe to YouTube.com/ValderBeebeShow and stay connected as I interview the world's most fascinating people.